Welcome to ESGX Live, the community for information and education that inspires collaboration and action. Today we're going to talk about how we can make our food chain more resilient. Now, we all probably have experienced the shortages in shops as staple items sold out during the early parts of the COVID-19 crisis, and more recently we've seen meat processing plants impacted by health problems, stores opening only to be forced to close once again where workers contract the disease. All of this has created stress for many people, but it's still a relatively short-term set of issues. The current health crisis will eventually come to an end. Much more serious, however, are the slower moving but ultimately more fundamental threats to our food supply chains around the world. Of course, this includes droughts, and over the last several years, these have impacted many growing regions around the world. Right now in the United States, we have further drought building in the Midwest and the far west of the country. And in Australia over the last 2 years, we have seen significant parts of this huge continent impacted by very significant droughts. And at the same time, there have been extreme floods and, of course, extreme wildfires too. Now, food is, of course, one of the most basic human needs, and we're going to look at how COVID-19 has affected our food chain in the short term and what we can do to make our underlying agricultural production more resilient, both environmentally and financially, perhaps over the medium to long term. Our guest host today is Lucia Polman, and she'll be joined by Tony Ma, CEO of Australia's National Farmers Federation, and Craig Wishner, Managing Partner of Farmland LP, who between them have some literally grassroots perspectives to share on what is being done and can be done to increase the value of agricultural land, improve the environment, and improve commercial resilience of farms. Whilst we count down to the hour, I thought I would share a couple of examples of environmental sustainability initiatives that I've seen over the years through the course of my career. One recent theme has been the new level of focus on security and sustainability of our supply chain, and including things like plant-based alternatives to meat and dairy products. So let's hear briefly from David Booker, the CEO of a new Australian food tech startup, Change Foods.
And as of last year, I started Change Foods, and this year I've joined a partnership with QUT up in Brisbane to help start the R&D. And so we're looking at recreating dairy products, and in particular cheese, but using bioengineering innovations, and in particular precision fermentation. The benefit of that is that you're actually creating real dairy compounds and proteins and fats which are pertinent to the function and texture and taste that we're all familiar with. But the biggest advantage, of course, is its efficiencies and its production method. Being clean technology, it sort of requires 98% less water, 84% less carbon dioxide emissions, about 64% less energy usage, and about 90% less land usage as well, which is pretty remarkable.
Now, of course, this isn't just about new technology. Back in 1966, Walt Disney conceived the idea of the Epcot Center, the environmental prototype community of tomorrow, which eventually opened in 1982. Some of the background work to create the Epcot Center, particularly in hydroponics, was undertaken at the Environmental Research Lab in Tucson, Arizona, now part of the U of A, where I worked one summer back in the late 1980s and discovered the truly extraordinary potential benefits of combining aquaculture and hydroponics. Now, whilst we're back in the 1980s, of course, we should mention Prince Charles, who talked passionately at the time about organic farming. And it was often regarded as somewhat eccentric at best. But 30 years later, here we are with organic produce in almost every grocery store across the developed world. A testament to the fact that consumers value these products and will pay for them, and that they can make a significant impact to the profitability of underlying businesses. In more recent times in Australia, in 2012, Sunshine Sugar's Manildra Harwood refinery became the world's first Bonsucro certified sugar refinery, and indeed with Bonsucro certification for the whole production system, with significant environmental benefits for what's otherwise a fairly energy intensive activity. Now, as we count down to the hour, please do take a moment to introduce yourself to other guests by using the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to start posting questions and we will work those into the Q&A as best we can. Also, if you have a moment, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Anything you can do to share what we're doing helps broadcast the ideas of our guests and their experience to a wider audience, which is much appreciated. Finally, let me say good morning to everybody who has got up early to join us in the Asia Pacific region. Thank you very much for doing so. Good evening to those of you in Africa and across Europe. Thank you for staying up a little late. And good afternoon to everyone who is joining us here in the Americas with me, Nigel Lake in New York, Paul Herman in San Francisco, and our guest host, Lucia Pullman. And of course, our producer, Nick Gower, to whom we are deeply grateful. Thank you very much, and we look forward to the show.